The night was supposed to be quiet. A cold breeze swept through the empty streets of Brooklyn, New York. The city lights flickered in the distance, and for a moment, everything seemed still. But inside an old, abandoned building, something was wrong. A flicker of orange. A soft crackle. Then, an explosion. Flames burst through the windows, swallowing the building in seconds. Smoke curled into the sky like a monster rising from the ground, devouring everything in its path. The fire was alive, growing, hungry. And inside that fire, 5 tiny lives trembled in fear. Huddled together in the corner of a dark room, 5 newborn kittens barely old enough to open their eyes pressed into one another. Their tiny bodies shivered, their soft mews lost in the roar of the flames. Their mother was gone. But she hadn't left them. She was coming back. Through the thick smoke, a small shadow appeared, low to the ground, moving fast. Golden eyes flickered in the darkness. A heartbeat later, she leaped into the fire. Scarlet. A mother. A warrior. A creature with nothing but love and determination driving her forward. The fire didn't scare her. The heat didn't stop her. The pain didn't slow her down. Because her babies were inside. And she was going to save them. The fire wrapped around her like a burning hand, pressing against her fur, crawling up her legs. The wooden floor beneath her paws was hot, searing, but she didn't stop. She had only one thought: find them. Save them. Her ears twitched, listening through the chaos, searching for the sound of tiny cries. And then, she heard them. Faint, weak, but still there. Her paws moved faster. The flames reached out, licking her sides, singing her whiskers. She didn't care. She reached them. 5 small bodies, curled together, too young to understand what was happening. Their tiny heads lifted as she approached, their mews barely louder than a whisper. Scarlet didn't hesitate. She picked up the first kitten gently in her mouth and turned toward the exit. The fire had spread, closing in from all sides. The air was thick, choking. Her lungs burned. Her vision blurred. But the moment she stepped outside, a rush of cold air hit her face. She placed the kitten down in the dirt, its tiny body shaking but safe. 1. She turned back. The fire roared louder, the building groaning under its weight. The entrance was shrinking. The smoke was thicker. It didn't matter. She went back in. The second kitten. The heat was unbearable. Her paws screamed in pain. The flames pressed closer, whispering threats in her ears. She didn't stop. The third kitten. Her fur was burning. The edges of her ears stung. Her back ached from the heat pressing down on her. But she didn't stop. The fourth kitten. The flames closed in, greedy and unforgiving. The room was collapsing. The walls trembled. And there was still one more. She turned for the last time, her body barely holding on. She ran inside. The smoke wrapped around her, pulling at her, trying to hold her back. Her lungs fought for air. Her paws, once strong, were weak. She found the last kitten. Small. Silent. Not moving. For the first time, fear gripped her. Was she too late? No. She refused to be too late. She picked up the tiny body, its soft fur pressed against her tongue, and forced herself forward. The ceiling cracked. The flames roared. The fire wanted her. She ran. Her body was screaming, her vision fading, but she didn't stop. She burst through the flames one last time, and collapsed. Her body was ruined. Her paws, blistered, raw, barely recognizable. Her fur, gone in places, blackened in others. Her ears, burned at the edges. Her whiskers, melted away. And her eyes. She tried to open them, but they wouldn't. The heat had stolen them from her. But she had to know. She had to be sure. She stretched her nose forward, touching each of her babies. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They were all there. They were breathing. They were alive. Only then did she allow herself to slip away into darkness. The firefighters arrived moments later, expecting nothing but destruction. But what they found left them speechless. A cat. Burned. Broken. Her kittens, alive. One of the men knelt beside her, shaking his head in disbelief. She saved them all. Another whispered, she went back for every single one. Carefully, gently, they lifted her into their arms. Her body was limp, her breathing shallow. But she was alive. And that meant she still had a chance. Her kittens were placed in a small box, wrapped in blankets. Their tiny eyes blinked up at the strange humans, unaware of what had just happened. But someday, they would know. Their mother had walked through fire for them. And now, the world was going to fight for her. Scarlett was rushed to an animal hospital, where veterinarians worked tirelessly to save her. Her burns were severe. Her paws, so damaged she couldn't stand. Her eyes, so swollen they remained closed for days. Would she survive? No one knew. But if there was one thing stronger than fire, it was her will to live. Day after day, she fought. She drank, she ate, she healed. Slowly, painfully, she began to recover. And then, one morning, she opened her eyes. She had survived. News of her bravery spread across the world. Letters poured in. People sent donations, gifts, messages of love. And then, something wonderful happened. A woman named Karen Welland heard Scarlett's story. And she knew. She had to bring her home. Scarlett spent the rest of her life in warmth, comfort, and love. No more dark alleyways. No more fires. No more pain. Just safety. Her kittens found homes too, growing strong and happy, carrying the legacy of the mother who had saved them. And though Scarlett never spoke, never told her story with words, her scars did. They told a story of love. Of courage. Of a mother who walked through fire because nothing, not even death itself, could keep her from saving her babies. Because that's what love does. It never stops. It never gives up. It runs into fire, no matter the cost. And for Scarlett, the cost had been everything. But in the end, love won.